this is going to be weird saying this on this podcast, because the entire point of this podcast is for us to watch something or consume or read something, because we've done books before too, and then decide and help parents, give them the information that they need to decide whether or not that they should let their kids watch it. That's the whole point of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But this is probably the first time ever that I'm going to say, I think that parents should watch this first and then determine whether or not it's like like what age it is appropriate for their kids.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Is This for Kids? I am Jonathan Bearded Blevins.
I am Katie, Mrs. Ruby.
I don't know why I sang my name there. Blevins.
It was like you're a soccer announcer.
Maybe I sang it because we're talking about singing.
Singing.
Did you wear this shirt on purpose because we're going to be talking about the color purple?
Yeah, because it's kind of a purpley pink.
Did you actually?
I did, for sure. 100%.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Donatello.
Because the Lord is upset when you walk by the color purple without acknowledging it.
Oh.
That's the line. That's why it's called the color purple.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. I read the book in high school.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually like a signed reading.
In high school?
Was it college?
Had to have been.
You think?
Did you go to public school?
I did.
Yeah, there's no way.
We read Catcher in the Rye.
That it still definitely
Lord of the Flies?
Definitely not on the same level.
Lord of the Flies? I mean, don't they
Nope.
like almost cannibalize in Lord of the Flies?
Mm.
They think about it.
Yeah. It's color purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the one with from what was it, the 90s or the early
85.
85. Oh my gosh, 85. Before I was born.
I think it was 85.
Did you see that one too or no?
Yeah.
You did.
Yep. With Whoopi Goldberg as Seeley.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I am excited to have this conversation with you on whether or not the new 2023 Color Purple movie is for kids. Would you like to give us a little summary?
Yeah. So first of all, there might be a couple people that are thinking like, why are you doing this? Because they read the book, The Color Purple, and they're like, this is clearly not for kids. But we saw the preview for the new Color Purple, the musical, on virtually every kids movie that we watched for this podcast going into the year. So it was clearly being marketed as a at least middle school-ish type aged thing. Because it is a musical, it's far more accessible for kids. It's colorful, it's bright. But this, I went into it kind of with that same thing. Like, how is it, and it's rated PG-13. So the question was, how are they possibly going to make The Color Purple appropriate for children? If you've read the book, these things are present in the movie, but they do a very good job of scaling them back. So the very first scene of the book and the movie is Seeley pregnant with her father's child.
Yeah.
And it is evident that it is the second of her father's children that she has had. And the father is in the movie sort of distant and whatnot. So you could maybe miss that it's his child. You could think he's speaking metaphorically, but so anyway, Seeley is our main character. She is clearly abused by her father, and when he's done with her, he gives her away to another man who's generally known throughout the movie as Mr. I don't think they ever say his real name, do they?
I don't think so either.
They do in the book, but in the movie they don't. So he's called Mr. the entire time, and he wants a sterile woman to raise his children, and in this case, a sterile young girl to raise his children because his wife has died. And so Seeley comes in to take care of his children and clean his house. And he's clearly in love with another woman, and that woman comes to town. Her name is Shug, and Shug is a singer, a lounge singer-y type person who's known to be a bad woman, and she strikes up a friendship with Seeley and becomes sort of a love interest to Seeley, and eventually helps Seeley to leave Mr. and to start her own life. And all through that, there is a lot of singing.
A lot of singing. With some pretty darn good voices.
Incredible music talent.
Yeah.
It's just impressive.
And the songs were good as well throughout the movie.
They are. So what were your thoughts?
So I like the book better.
The book 1983 Color Purple won the Pulitzer Prize for Alice Walker.
And it definitely, I'm remembering everything now. It was I remember my teacher's name, Dr. Sears. We read the book and had great conversations about it in class. Like some heated ones too, which I remember pretty vividly. I will say this. Well, yeah. Let me start. Let me get your thoughts on just the movie in general. And then I have some interesting thoughts on whether or not I think it's for kids.
Okay. So for me, as a lover of both musical theater and a book purist, I tend to be the person who's always
She's
like,
a nerd.
I'm a giant nerd, but I tend to be in the like, oh, the book was better camp. But I'm also I love musicals fan. Like, so I'm in this like really uncomfortable position for myself where the book for me was very meaningful. It is about, Black people in the Jim Crow South. But for me, it's much more about women and their experience of abuse and dealing with men, which resonates with me deeply. So this was a very, very informative and incredible book for me. And seeing it come out as a musical felt like it was making fun of it a little bit. It's sort of like, did you ever see The Producers where they're like the springtime for Hitler? You're like,
no, I haven't, but I think I might have seen that video on YouTube of it.
Like it's meant to be make a joke of something very, very serious. And I don't think that they're trying to make a joke of it. I don't think that's the goal. But to bring levity to a situation that is abusive and terrible, it's hard for me to watch. It's hard for me to see how you could possibly take it seriously. And I do feel like it downplays the struggle that Celie went through and makes it less easy to see what she overcame and feel her triumph at the end, basically. So that was a bit of a trouble for me. But from my perspective, these are conversations that women and girls kind of need to have at some point in their lives. Like, how are you going to react to a spouse or a boyfriend who treats you this way? Who can you reach out to? Who can you talk to? What is it like when somebody's abusing you? How does that teach you to experience physical touch? Stuff like that. These are conversations that we need to be willing to have with our daughters. And this might be a good way to bring it up because it does take a lot of the pressure off of the very scary, very hard to watch thing. So there's that in there as well. I think it does a good job of experiencing it for people who, like, this shouldn't be read. The book shouldn't be read by anybody under the age of 20. But so yeah.
I mean, so this is going to be weird saying this on this podcast because the entire point of this podcast is for us to watch something or consume or read something, because we've done books before too, and then decide and help parents, give them the information that they need to decide whether or not that they should let their kids watch it. That's the whole point of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But this is probably the first time ever that I'm going to say, I think that parents should watch this first and then determine whether or not it's like like what age it is appropriate for their kid.
Yes.
You don't have time to do that with every single movie and show and video game. And that's why we have this podcast. But for this one, I was uncomfortable. And not because I'm uncomfortable with hard things. Like it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. And I was in there by myself. Yeah. I was like the only guy in this theater, just like looking around like, what is happening? And I just kept thinking to myself, and my daughter's 4, I have an 8-year-old, and men can be abused too. So there's conversations to be had with your family, no matter what, throughout this movie. But I just kept thinking to myself, like, oh my goodness, I wouldn't want to recommend to any parent what age that their kid should see this. I would want them to watch it and then make that decision themselves, because there's some gruesome stuff that like you don't see in R-rated movies. Now, this is also like historically things that happened and happen, but back then for sure. And so it's important, like you're saying. So for me, like whether or not this is for kids, I'm like, you should check it out. I think like 15, 16 years old. Am I being crazy?
No, I would agree
with you. For the movie?
Yeah.
With a parent? Yes,
with a parent. Absolutely. I saw it with my 15-year-old and she was like, I wouldn't take anybody younger than me. But I think that we as parents think that our kids are not as exposed to things as they are. And it's a good idea to, like, your kids might watch this at a sleepover and you need to be prepared to, like, I think you should see it. I think you should see it and decide what your kid needs to, if you're going to allow it or if you're going to forbid it outright. And it wouldn't be because like it's bad or mean or nasty or any of those things. It's because it was traumatic. There are traumatic things that happen, but they do a very good job of bringing levity to it. So if you've never read the book, if you're trying to just stand on its own the way that it is, you might miss that Celie's children are her father's, because the only evidence is that he says, that baby's mine, I'll do what I want with it. And you could just think he's a controlling man who thinks everything's his. You could easily walk away with that understanding. And the husband is awful. You're not going to get away from that, but And some of the reviews I read, they were like mad about that part. That in the book it's so very clear who the dad is, and in the movie they're like, is it? And so there were some upset people. I think that they had to do that to get that PG-13 rating. Oh, I think that was necessary, which is kind of a concern about when you're doing a PG-13. I don't know how you make this movie PG-13 and still have it be as meaningful as it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But a lot of great reviews as well. There were a lot of really good reviews about it, but those were some of the negative things I heard.
So yeah, this is going to be a weird episode where we tell you actually have to watch this on your own first before you make any decisions. So there you go.
First time we've ever said that.
Forever. Like, that's going to be so variable from kid to kid. You know, if you want to go over to patreon.com/isthisforkids, I definitely have some question guides up there, some conversation starters, so that you can have these conversations. You might not even know where to start. So we've got some help for you there of how to help a teenager through this. And there you
100%.
go.
And if you have other suggestions of things that you'd like to see us talk about on the show, please let us know. You can even just DM us on our own private Instagrams, however you want to find us, or go to isthisforkids.com, and there's lots of ways to reach us there.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so much media out there for parents to navigate.
I'm Jonathan Beard of Blevins.
I am Katie, Mrs. Ruby, and let's help you decide.
Is this for kids?